Hey guys, today we're going to make a beautiful fine dining lobster pie tea. It's a crispy lobster pie tea with a lobster salad, a green herb mayo, a Kungquat Gel and a lobster and marigold powder. So, let's begin. First we're going to prepare the lobster. We start with the less pleasant part. Insert a knife in the lobster's head to kill it instantly. This is the most humane way to kill a lobster. Then twist the tail off the head and also twist the claws off. Now to ensure we get a straight tail, I always insert a skewer or the back of a spoon between the meat and the shell. Then season some boiling water with a generous amount of salt and boil the lobster 1 minute for every 100 grams of whole lobster. This one weighed 500 grams, so I boiled it for 5 minutes. Once cooked, directly cool it down in ice water. Leave it in for 5 minutes and then take it out of the water. Then remove the skewer or spoon and give the tail a gentle press to break the shell. Now peel it completely off. Then take the claws and separate the knees. Now firmly hold the claw and gently twist the finger to remove it. If you're lucky, you will also pull out both swords, but often the big one will break off and stay in the meat. In that case, you need to remove it after taking the claw out of the shell. Now with the back of a heavy knife, break the shell. Take the meat out and, like I said before, ensure both swords are removed. Then take the knees and cut them open on both sides. It can be quite hard to do this, but with good scissors it will make such a difference. Take the meat out of the shell and place it on a tray. Cover the tray and keep it in your fridge for later. Now for the lobster coulis. This will be the base of the pie tea and the powder. Cut the head in half and then cut it in smaller pieces. You can also crush it in a mixing bowl with a flat beater, but because I had such a small quantity, I did it by hand. Now add a drizzle of oil to a hot pan and pan fry the lobster head on a high heat. You want a nice golden color all around. This is going to take at least 5 minutes. Meanwhile, cut a big shallot in half and clean it. Then slice it in thin slices. Once the lobster has a nice color, add the shallot and pan fry it for 3 minutes. After that, add 140 grams of tomato puree and keep on heating it for another 3 minutes. Then deglaze the pan with half a liter of water and also add a sprig of tarragon. Now let it simmer on a low heat for 30 minutes. After that, transfer everything into a blender and blend it till smooth. This takes about 5 minutes. Once smooth, pass it through a fine sieve. Using a ladle will make this a lot easier. Keep the coulis in your fridge for later. Now for the pie tea. Measure 300 grams of the coulis into a measuring cup and also add 50 grams of flour, 25 grams of cornstarch, 50 grams of egg and 3 grams of salt. Now blend this till smooth. Keep the blender at the bottom to prevent air from mixing with the batter. Then pass the batter through a fine sieve. Meanwhile, heat up your pie tea stamp in some oil that's 160 degrees Celsius. Find a link in the description of this video. Once the stamp is hot and the batter is ready, submerge it just below the top for around 5 seconds. The longer you leave it in, the thicker the shell will be. Now deep fry the stamp for 90 seconds. Once almost no bubbles form, you know it's done. Then take the pie tea off the stamp and continue deep frying more pie teas. If the pie teas stick to the stamp, it means the oil is too cold. If the batter already falls off while dipping it in the batter, it means the frying oil is too hot. Now keep them dry and covered for later. Then the lobster and marigold powder. Take 50 grams of marigold flowers and remove the flower petals from the bulb. I use marigold because it has such a nice aromatic flavor. Now pour 150 grams of the lobster coulis into a bowl and also add the marigold petals. Mix this until it's a thick paste. Then transfer it on a silicone sheet and spread it. Once it's a nice thin and even layer, dry it at 45 degrees Celsius for a couple of hours. I always leave it overnight. After that, take it off the sheet and transfer it into a blender. Now blend it into a fine powder. Find a full equipment list on my website. Keep the powder dry and covered for later. Now the chives and parsley mayo. First, the herb oil. Pick enough parsley for 25 grams of leaves. I use flat parsley. Then also measure 25 grams of chives. Transfer both herbs into a blender and also add 200 grams of a neutral oil. I use sunflower oil. Blend it till the temperature is 65 degrees Celsius. It will heat up from the friction. Once it's done, pour it into a bowl that's sitting on some ice water. By cooling it down as fast as possible, you keep the vibrant green color. Now normally I would pass the oil through a fine sieve, but because I'm using this mayo as a seasoning for the lobster salad, I leave the herb solids in. They still have a great flavor, and for the presentation it doesn't really matter. Once the oil has cooled down completely, measure 180 grams into a blender and also add 40 grams of egg white, 25 grams of sushi vinegar, 4 grams of salt and 20 grams of crushed ice or ice cubes. Now blend it till fully emulsified. When blending, friction will heat up the mayo and this can cause it to split. With the ice, it keeps the mayo cool and it will ensure a strong emulsion will form. Then transfer it into a piping bottle and let it set in your fridge for at least 1 hour. Now for the Kungquat Gel. Start by removing the stems from 300 grams of kumquats. Then blanch them in some boiling water for a minute. We do this to remove the bitter notes from the peels. Now drain the water and submerge the kumquats with fresh water. Bring this to a boil and let it boil for 1 minute. Then drain it again and repeat this process once more, so in total 3 times. After that, spread them on a tray and make an incision in the peels. Now if there are any, remove the seeds. In some kumquats I had 5 seeds, in some none. Just be sure to check it well. Then measure 280 grams of kumquats into a measuring cup and also add 80 grams of ginger syrup, 60 grams of a white port and 6 grams of agar powder. Blend it till smooth. You can replace the white port with a rich dark vegetable broth. Now pour it into a pan and while stirring bring it to a boil for at least 30 seconds. Then pour it into a bowl or a tray and let it cool down completely in your fridge. Once set, transfer it into a blender and blend it till smooth. Now to bring it to the next level, pour it into a bowl and vacuum the gel 100% to remove any air bubbles. This will result in a clear gel with a more intense flavor. Keep it in your fridge for later. Then the Churro Sauce. First the base, also known as a gastrique. Cut 2 shallots in half and clean them. Now slice them in thin slices. Transfer the shallots into a pan and repeat this process with 2 cloves of garlic. Add them to the pan as well. Now submerge both the shallot and garlic with 600 grams of white wine and 100 grams of white wine vinegar. Also add 10 black peppercorns, 10 coriander seeds and 2 sprigs of thyme. Now let it reduce on a medium heat for around 80%. Once you're happy with the flavor, take the pan off the heat and pass the gastrique through a fine sieve. Use a ladle to ensure you don't waste a single drop. For gastrique, I always make a big batch and freeze it for later. Now to finish the churro sauce, measure 80 grams of the gastrique into a pan. Add 4 grams of salt and then bring it to a boil. When it's boiling, turn down the heat and while blending, add 60 grams of egg yolk. Now put the heat on medium and while beating it with a whisk, cook the yolks. You know it's done when you have a lovely airy and thick texture. Then turn off the heat and while mixing, add 120 grams of cold cubes of butter. This will stop the cooking process by cooling down the sauce. Like this, the sauce is already very delicious, but to make it a churro sauce, we need to add tomato puree. I added 40 grams. Mix it once more and then give it a final taste for seasoning. Now to create an airier churro sauce, I poured it into a siphon with 1 charge. In a siphon, it's also easier to heat up the sauce. Just place it under a hot pass, in a heat roll or in a pan with warm water. Now for the lobster salad. Cut a shallot in half and clean it. Then take the layers apart and slice it in a very thin julienne. Then cut it in a very fine brunoise. Use a sharp knife for the best result. Now take the cleaned lobster and cut the tail open. Always double check the tail to ensure all the intestines are removed. Now cut the tail, knees and claws into a nice tartare. Don't overchop it, otherwise it will lose that beautiful texture. Now season it with a generous drizzle of the herb mayo, the zest from a quarter of a lime, some of the chopped shallot, salt and black pepper. Then mix it and give it a final taste for seasoning. Now let's finish the parties. First fill them halfway with the lobster salad. Drizzle some of the Kungquat Gel on top. Then fill them all the way with the hot churro sauce. Like I said, I heated it up in my heat roll. Now dust the top with the lobster and marigold powder and then they're ready to be served. Okay guys, that's it for today. I'm super happy with the result. It looks amazing and I just cut it in half. The texture is still wonderful, even after taking pictures and B-roll for like 20 minutes. So that's amazing. The Churro Sauce or the foam is still super fluffy as well. And that lobster powder is to die for. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Like and share the video and subscribe if you don't want to miss any other recipes and if you want to support my channel. And as always, bon appetit.